Hello, friends. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Taylor Petrinovich, and I have a very exciting announcement. If you follow me on social media at The Level Up Co., that's the account for this podcast and all the other educational resources I provide, you may have seen me tease that there are some changes coming, and these changes are here. I am now joined by our co-host, Kelley Gilster.
Hi guys, and Taylor, thank you so much for bringing me on as a co-host. I'm just so honored to be included in this community, and I think that we're really excited about just sharing the same visions and goals for filmmakers, bringing their brand from mainstream to luxury, and yeah, we're just really excited to collaborate together and to help fellow filmmakers rise.
Yes. Well, I'm so excited to have you with me as part of the team. I have been doing this podcast since 2020, so we are 3 years in. And if you have been a longtime listener of the show, or if you have binge listened recently to the whole show, you'll know that I sometimes will pop out for a few months of the podcast, and I kind of leave you guys hanging, and I feel really bad. But the reason for that is that producing this podcast and producing all these educational resources, honestly, it's really lonely to do it by myself. And so I knew that going into 2023, I hadn't lost the vision or the drive to make this happen, but I knew something had to change. And bringing on a co-host, specifically Kelley, I knew would give me enough, reinvigorate the ability to carry this forward in a really new and exciting direction. So we are working on rebranding the entire podcast. We have a new website launching soon. We're working on all new assets, and we have a new tagline. Kelley, would you like to share a little bit about the direction of where we're headed and who we're hoping to reach with the podcast?
Yeah, so both Taylor and I really want to serve filmmakers who have been in the industry for 3, 4, 5 years that are just ready to enter into the luxury market. So maybe you're kind of stuck in that mainstream market and you want to bring your brand to luxury, and that's what we're here to do and here to help with. So we both are really aligned in our goals for you guys and just for the level up. And so thanks so much for joining us, and I hope that you enjoy this rebrand and the direction that we're headed.
This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelley Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help filmmakers level up their businesses and their craft so they can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. So today, Taylor and I have a really cool topic that I'm really excited about. It is when to raise your prices. And I know that this is kind of something that so many filmmakers struggle with. And I feel like now in the industry, it's so great because there's so much transparency in pricing. And so Taylor and I just kind of wanted to dive a little bit more into that. So Taylor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think pricing is one of those topics that everyone is dying to talk about, but it's almost, I find, like a taboo thing. Like nobody wants to be the person to bring it up, but we all want to hear other people talk about it. So that's what we're going to bring today to this episode. Full transparency, when to raise your prices, when not to raise your prices, and all of those things. So I don't know. I'm 6 years into business, and I am one of those people who likes to change things up often. And something I used to do in the early days, like when I was charging, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for wedding films, I would like to follow the rule where every couple of times somebody booked, I would just do like a small incremental price increase. And that quickly kind of got me to that like $8,000 price point. And then, I want to say last year I was like in that like mid $8,000 for starting price. And, inquiries were just like still coming in, and it was like still flooding, like the demand was there. And so I did like another big jump up to 12,000 starting. And so now that's kind of where we're starting this year. That's my base rate, with my average being right around 15 for 2023. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it can be really scary, especially doing big jumps like that, waiting for people to book. We talked about that a few episodes ago when I brought Kelley on for that ins and outs of 2023. So I don't know, just like in a nutshell, that's like kind of how I've gone about changing up my pricing and increasing my prices. But what about you, Kelley?
Yeah, so that slow incremental, $300, whatever per X amount of weddings that you booked. I think it's really common to do that pricing adjustment in the early years of your business because you start off so low and you don't want to continue to book out and be stuck at that price for a whole year or 18 months. So we did the same thing when we started in 2010. I mean, I think everyone has the same story. We did our first wedding, honestly, for free. Our second wedding was like $300, and then our third one was $500. And we just kind of slowly inched our way up. Now kind of what we do is we do a little bit larger adjustments, not totally huge that's going to like land us in a totally different market. It's not a huge increase like that, which we have done in the past when we want to jump up into the next market. But kind of the rule that I follow is once my year is about 2/3 of the way booked, I'll make an increase. And that could change depending on how the booking year pans out. But like if I hit my 2/3 mark in April, then I'm going to go ahead and raise my prices so that my 2024 pricing isn't stuck in my 2023 pricing, if that makes sense.
Oh, I like that.
There might be a couple like early bookers that, depending on the venue, like if it's a really cool venue or a really cool planner that I want to work with, I may just honor that 2023 pricing. If it is a venue that I've worked at many times or I don't feel like it's a super dynamic booking, I will go ahead and send them over our collections that showcase our 2024 pricing. So just kind of leave that up to kind of however you want to approach that. And so then technically those last 1/3 of those couples are essentially paying 2024 pricing. But that's kind of when I'll make that adjustment so that the next year doesn't reflect last year's pricing.
I like that. And are you comfortable talking about how much you charge?
Yeah, so we start at $9,500, and then our collections kind of range from $9,500 to 16,000. But once I hit that, I have like 3 more weddings that we're going to book, and then I'm going to be making a big jump up to 12. So we'll start at 12 and probably range from like 12 to 20 for like full weekend coverage.
Perfect. We're like essentially right around the same. Yeah, pricing is so funny, and I love hearing how other people handle it, and that's like the essence of this episode. So we have a few bullet points that I do kind of want to like hit on to answer. I would call them almost like frequently asked questions that I see like floating around online. So the first one I want to say is please, please, please every year raise your prices. Even if it's not by like a ton, you really need to at least adjust for inflation. Like if you don't, you're basically making less than you did last year. And we all saw, I don't know if it was actually a historic inflation rate last year, but I did do a quick Google search this morning. And according to Google, the inflation rate for the US was at 6.5%. So just to like give you guys an example of what that would look like. So if someone was charging $5,000 last year, you would have to raise your prices by at least $325 this year to be making the same amount, like for your dollar to have the same purchasing power. You know what I mean? So if nothing else, please adjust for inflation.
Yes, that's so true. Everything's gone up. Like even just all of the subscriptions that we use for our business have gone up. And so I think it's really important to continue to rise with the occasion. And I think that everyone kind of planners, get that. I think clients get that. It's just everything is a little more expensive right now. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of the reasons why you would raise your prices. So one would be kind of how we take it is when you become an X percentage, say 70% of the way booked, you will want to raise your prices. You can take that approach. Another reason if you wanted to raise your prices would be if you're ready to target a new level of client or enter a new market. So I think that one thing, Taylor, we should talk about is that there's these certain like tiers of pricing that just automatically bring you up into a new level. So where like raising your prices $500 might not feel like all that much, if you were going from like 6,500 to 7,000, you might you might just find that $500 moves you up into another market, because for some reason like 7, 8 is a harder number for people to kind of grasp than like 5 or 6. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's like the difference between being like the most expensive of that like lower end option or the least expensive of that higher end option. Like, yeah, I feel like some pricing brackets, like you're straddling that, which is super funny. I have heard a few people say that like they found like a dead zone right around that like 7, 8 thousand, but then once they got above that, like the bookings started flooding in. But I've heard a few people on podcast. Gretchen Culver of, I think it's Rocket Science Events, loves talking about this, but your pricing is your marketing. So in other words, like it's part of your business like asset, like how much you charge, and it can be a selling point. So a lot of planners won't refer you unless you charge within a certain range. So by jumping pricing, like you essentially like open up the potential to work with a different set of vendors and planners. Have you found that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. I would say about 3 years ago, we were chatting with a planner, and she was really brutally honest with us. She was like, let me pull up your packages. We had worked with her before, kind of more on like the photographer referred us. The referral didn't really necessarily come from her, but we have worked together before. And she was like, let me look at your collections. So I pulled them up, and I think at the time we were charging like $5,000 starting. And she was like, I can't refer you. Like my clients can't see a number in the fives. Like I need you to like really bump that up, even if it meant like bumping it up for my clients, because they're just used to seeing certain numbers in this like high wealth market that we're dealing with those clients. And if I show them like a photographer who's starting at 40,000 and then I show you that's starting at 5, they're like, wait, what? What's wrong with this? There's something wrong with this. Something's wrong with the videographer. And
they think the value isn't there. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's also something to really consider, is that, another thing too is kind of being between markets. I don't know if you've experienced this, Taylor. I actually think that we just recently experienced this, and I had some conversations with planners about that, and they all kind of agreed that probably we were in between markets. Have you had that happen to you before?
Yeah. Yeah, I've experienced a lot of different comments on my pricing. I'll start kind of like from the bottom. I would say like, so I've only been in the industry for about 6 years, and I would call my growth like pretty rapid over the last 3 years since 2020. Yeah. Like I've been really intentionally like growing. Yes. And that naturally means that like my relationships, I'm also like, I've found that I've outgrown. Like unless I'm forming relationships with planners and photographers who are growing at the same rate as me, a lot of those relationships like are now not serving the same level of client as me, which is fine. Like there's no reason to like grow for no reason. Like I just have a specific like vision and I'm chasing that, but some like people can be happy and like super successful in all levels of the market. So I just want to say that. That's like my little disclaimer. So do what's right for you, right? What's right for me might not be right for you. But so yes, I've had people say like, sorry, I can no longer refer you because you're too expensive now. And that's fine. There's always people entering different levels of the market where they can pull from for referrals. And then there's people like you said, where I don't charge enough or they want to add some padding to the pricing. But the mid-level market, I would say like a wedding that costs somewhere between like $80,000 and $120,000, like all in investment. Like that's like a really funny place of the market to be in, I feel like, depending on the bride and groom and depending on the planner, because they have enough money for it to be really, really beautiful, but they have to be really choosy on what they spend money on. And unfortunately, a lot of people still are not seeing the value of video being at the same level or like valued at the same point as like things like design and floral or photography. Like people are dumping most of their money there. So I feel like in that price range for weddings, you'll find a lot of people choosing much less expensive videographers because that's all the budget they had left for, unless they are the kind of people who really value video like right out of the gate. So that's kind of been what I've seen happen. Have you seen anything similar to that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And just kind of speaking on our recent experience with being kind of in between markets was looking when we were back in 2022 and I was looking at our 2023 bookings, we only had about 5. And looking at what the collections they went for and the conversations that we had with those clients, we had 2 very different types of clients. So we had about 3 clients who were really, really reaching for our 9,500 price point. Like they were probably we're a splurge. They were probably envisioning or more comfortable spending more in the 7s. But they loved our work. We met with them. We really connected. And they were like, okay, we'll go for it. Like we're going to reach for the 9,500. Then on the flip side, we had 2 couples who we didn't even offer everything that they wanted. And it was almost like their budget was just like, they just went through our collections. Like our top collection right now starts at, or is at 16,000. But one of the bookings was 25K and then the other one was 23K. And it was because they were like, we want 4 days of coverage. We had to do a full custom proposal for them. And so it was just like the 2 ends of the spectrum were like,
just give it all.
The give it all. Like you don't even offer enough. Like give it all. So we had these 2 that were in the 20s. And then we had these 3 that were in like barely reaching 9,500. So I'm like, what's going on? I felt like we were really in between markets, and talking to planners, they agreed that we were really in between markets. And so they both kind of, they encouraged us to, once we feel good about where our year's at and where it's headed, to go ahead and make that jump up to the 12, because that's going to be a lot easier of a market to capture.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. We are planning on doing another episode on the misconceptions of the luxury market, which stay tuned. That'll be out within the next few weeks. But that is one of the main talking points is how much easier, honestly, it is to sell to the luxury market because they just snap their fingers and it's done. Not to say they don't highly vet their vendors, but there's a level of trust there that they have that you are playing ball at a certain level, and that comes with an inherent like level of trust, and they're just gonna blindly be like yes. So yeah, being in between markets is really, really a funky place to be in business, and it can frankly be a little scary and confusing and feel really odd, but that's why we're talking about it, so that if you're kind of finding yourself in that level of business or finding yourself in those situations, just know that you're not alone. It's us too. But it's not just at the level that we're at. I would say like we are straddling kind of, I don't know about you, Kelley. I'm not going to speak for you. I'll just speak for myself. I'm straddling this like market of going from like entry level luxury to more of like a mid or like higher level luxury. And that's kind of like where I'm straddling now. But like all the way up from charging $200 all the way up to $12,000, like incrementally every few $1,000s you'll find yourself straddling a different subset of client, and those like hesitations will come up each time. So it's something that you're gonna have to like battle over and over again.
Yeah, and it's just like it's a dance, like, and it's so good to have those open, honest conversations with photographers or with, like, I will say, like, if we get an inquiry and maybe we know the photographer or maybe we don't, sometimes we'll get inquiries from photographers where maybe they've just admired our work on social media and they would like to work with us, or showcase a quality vendor referral to their clients. Automatically I'll kind of go and see like, oh, who is this photographer? What are they charging? And if I can see that they're charging less than us, I can almost guarantee that like we probably won't secure the booking just because of just the nature of the industry. Like photography is generally priced higher than video. And so clients are used to paying a little bit less for video than for photo. It's just the nature of it. I think it's very rare that they have an equal spend for photo and video. Hopefully that will change. But that's kind of, we've been in the industry for over a decade, and that's kind of just the thing that's followed. So,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Another reason to raise your prices is when you've increased your skill level or just the value of the end product that you can bring to your clients. So Taylor, what are some things that you feel like are like no-brainers on skill level or end product delivery that clients can expect to pay a little bit more for and filmmakers can charge for that?
Yeah. So some simple ones would be like, I would say substantial like gear upgrades. Like say, so just using my own experience as an example, for the first 3 years of my business, yes, I shot on a Canon 80D, which is not full frame. Like it only shoots 1080. Like it was a great camera. It was a great like entry point for me. But once I upgraded to the 1DX Mark II, my image was much crisper. I upgraded drones. Like naturally, my films were gonna have a look that they just couldn't before because of the barrier of the gear I was using. You know, I had reached the ceiling of that. And so to me, like my quality automatically boosted in how my films looked. The same thing as soon as I started using like something like a loom to have that more like fine art look, the clients like automatically I feel like saw more value in it because now my films kind of matched that film photography and they had a more cohesive imagery collection. So those are just some like really easy like quality improvements that I saw. But I would say anything like you develop more of a skill for your gimbal, or you actually know like which lenses to use and when situationally, and now your films naturally look better. I don't know. Those are just a few things off the top of my head.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'll add to that just your website, having your website really clean and showcasing all of your best work. That's huge. If someone's going to be coming to your website, it's a direct reflection, I think, of what your pricing should be. So, I mean, if you're trying to charge, in the 5 figures for weddings, your website should probably showcase that, not only in the weddings that you shoot, but just how clean it is, how professional it looks, and just small changes like that.
I love this. An example I love to use, I've used it in Elevate Mastermind and some of like the coaching that I've done for filmmakers. But I love comparing it to like a handbag branding, like overall branding, right? So like, we'll go for like recognizable brands. So like a Louis Vuitton bag is going to be made of leather and it's hand stitched, whatever. I don't actually know if any of this is true, guys. I'm not like a handbag person, but it's made in Italy. It has all these like features, but there is also a bag from Nordstrom that has all of these same features as well, but it is half the price or a third of the price. Why are you more willing to pay for the Louis Vuitton bag? It's because of the overall branding and the feeling you get when you buy it and you associate yourself with this recognized brand and this high level brand. So the same thing for us. Like it's not all about work quality. It's about branding and brand positioning and how couples feel booking you, and almost like the confidence that can come from booking somebody who has their ish together in the branding like world. You know what I mean? And website is a big key player in that, that feeling of value. The last kind of prepared point that we have is when your personal life requires it. So if you have a really big expense coming up and you need some extra cash flow in order to like float that expense, or you're having kids and so you need to feel more secure in your income and how much you're making, or other big life things that equate to needing a higher income level or being able to work less, it kind of goes both ways, then I would say that would be a big encouragement to raise your prices.
So next would be how you get that across to future clients or any of the planners that you have relationships with. So if you show your starting price on your website, there's so many different ways that you could go about this. And we've gone through so many different avenues in our business. At one point, we just full on had all of our collections, like on our website. Like you could just look and just go and see. And, or we've kind of played around with having our starting price. We've played around with not having our pricing on there. Honestly, whatever you feel like works for you. I feel like having a starting price on there weeds out a little bit of the clientele that might be looking. And if you feel like you're kind of drowning in inquiries, that's a good way to kind of niche those down a little bit. And then right now we have a drop down on our contact form because I feel like generally clients or planners aren't really reading everything on your website. So if you make it an option for them to choose what their budget is, then they kind of get an idea that, hey, like I'm not going to be able to, if my budget is under $10,000, then I probably won't be able to afford them. So just kind of gives a good like starting line for people on when they're inquiring. So you can do that by updating your website with your new pricing or starting pricing. Another way that we have done it in the past is many of the planners who we have relationships with, we will send out an email maybe mid-year just saying, hey, and letting them know that we have formulated some new collections for 2023. I think there's two reasons why this is really helpful. One, it keeps you in the forefront of their mind. So maybe they forgot about you or they didn't really have a client for you last year and you really want to work with them again this year or in 2024. So if you're right there in their inbox saying, hey, just, educating them that we have new collections, take a look and seeing if they have a really good client in mind for them or a really good client in mind for you. And then the second reason is I think that it just really serves the planners well to know where you're at right now. So we actually recently had a planner friend of ours who was referring us maybe when we were in that 7,000 range, and we haven't worked with her since 2019. So she reached out for a wedding this coming March, and I sent over our collections, and she was very transparent and just saying, wow, guys, you have raised your prices. And I think that it's really important so that planners know what your pricing's at, not only for you so that you know that they're referring the level of clients that you're looking for, but also it might be like slightly embarrassing for them if they are kind of thinking in their mind that you are in that 6 to 7 range and then they pitch you to a client and then they reach out to you and then realize, oh no, they're $10,000 now. So I think that they would really appreciate that, and all of our planners have been really appreciative that we keep the conversation open and honest about pricing. And so those are just two things that we do to let people know that we've raised our prices.
Yeah, I love that practice. And it's something that I would like to adopt for this year. I have this thing where I hate the idea of like being annoying. But I
too.
think yeah, it's so important to know that like I don't think other people find you annoying. You know what I mean? Like we think about ourselves more than anyone else thinks about us. So we're probably not annoying them. So it's just like a mental hurdle I need to personally get over. But I've had conversations with planners just to kind of piggyback on your point where what they basically have is like a spreadsheet or like a database of like all of the options of all the different vendor types. And they have people categorized based off of like personality fit, location, price range, on all these things, ways that they can categorize you as an option. And when they reach out, they have you kind of pegged in this corner, whether it fits with the client that they have or not. And so it is better serving. It saves them a step to know that maybe you're not a fit for this client, or maybe you're a fit for this other level of client that they have now that you've raised your prices, things like that. So it just helps them, it saves them an email essentially, if you are just like staying top of mind and up to date with them. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good concept to adapt. And I'm the same with you. On my website, I have my starting price listed, so my base rate, and then I do the same thing with a drop down. I don't know about you, Kelley, but like I don't like to send a lot of emails. I frankly don't like to. And I was just getting a little bit too bombarded when I didn't show any pricing, and it's frustrating getting inquiries that like there's no stretch, like they're not going to be able to book you. Like I feel like it's kind of wasting their time. Like they took the time to like fill out that form, and they are like hoping to hear back. So it's saving them time, saving you time. It's just like kind of good all around. So that's my philosophy.
So yeah, it really just like keeps things more streamlined, I think, in the process, because when we didn't have our pricing on our website, we were definitely getting bombarded with all sorts of budget types. And so now that we have that drop down, I mean, we still get people that like said that their budget was 9 to 12, but then when we dove a little deeper, they were like, actually, it's more like this. Could you customize? But we have our minimums too, which I think is really important for everyone listening. Make sure that you have your minimum on like what you want to book your clients for, and really stick to it. Unless, there's like that dynamic pricing. Taylor's talked a little bit about dynamic pricing. If there's a client in mind that's like your ideal client or ideal venue or ideal planner, I think there's a little bit of wiggle room there. And we've done that ourselves too when we've wanted to just form a new relationship with a planner, or we've wanted to showcase a new part of the country in our work. And so those are all things, just using your intuition in finding those right times to implement that.
Yes, absolutely. So we've touched on when someone might want to raise their prices. We've talked on kind of how to do that and how to put it out into the world, essentially. So let's dig a little bit into like our philosophies on how much to inch things up, like per package and just as a whole.
So what do you do, Taylor? I'm curious.
Yeah, okay.
I'm curious what you do. Right. You can go first.
Oh my gosh. So it's the same with you. I change things a lot, and I change how I do things a lot, and I am never doing the same thing ever. That's just how my brain works. I like to keep things new and fresh. And so I have gone a lot of different routes for my packages. At one point, I did a complete a la carte. I had a base rate that got you like 8 hours of coverage in a highlight film, and then it was basically a build your own package situation. I handed someone a menu and they ran with it. You know what I mean? So when I did pricing like that, I would pretty much just raise that base rate. Like, you have to get this part and then you can add on whatever you want. I would raise that one by like $200-$400 every 2 or 3 bookings or so, and that kind of helped me kind of raise those prices quickly. And then once those a la carte items did not seem like they were in alignment with the base rate anymore, like it just didn't make sense, then I would raise the a la carte items as well. So for example, let's say I was charging $4,000 for my base rate and then $400 for the ceremony. That ceremony, I was comfortable keeping it at $400 until I got to like $6,000 base rate. And then I bumped it up to $600. I don't know. Like, that's just how I did it. You could always like raise things like percentage based. But now I do a combination. I do have 3 standard collections that people can just pick from. I have found that my planners that I work with, they really like it to be easy to pitch things to clients. And if the client didn't already have a specific set of deliverables in mind that they wanted to have, they would prefer just like pre-packaged things. So for that, I basically just add like the same amount to each collection, so they kind of stay like an equidistant amount. So like when I went from 10,000 to 12,000, I just bumped them all up by 2,000, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, it can get a little funky because a 10, 12, and 14 looks a lot different than a 16, 18, and 20. Like, those $2,000 make less of a difference as you get higher up, if that makes sense. I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense, but I can see it in my brain. Sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think that totally makes sense. I used to do the a la carte approach too. And then I've kind of found that as we started to enter more of the luxury market, planners and clients just want to be told, like, here's everything that you get. Like,
here's what you need.
Unless you're doing like a, yeah, here's what you need, here's what I'm providing. It also just makes you feel like you're more of an expert in your field by letting people know that's exactly what they need and what the industry standard is for their level within the industry. So for us, we also offer a full ceremony or full toast, and that used to be a la carte. And then we decided there was already so many clients that were adding that on either right before the wedding or right after the wedding that I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to go ahead and like add those to the collections and beef them up more. Because when we had a planner one time tell us that they couldn't pitch us to their clients because we weren't expensive enough. I didn't feel quite right. Just me personally. Like, if you do this, no judgment at all, whatever works for your business. But I didn't feel quite right just like adding on like certain amount of money because it was just that planner. So what I did is, as I built like more of a dynamic collection that included more deliverables. A lot of times in the luxury market, you're filming like more than 8 hours. So just knowing that clients are going to need like probably 10, 12 hours of coverage for the wedding day, I just padded those collections accordingly with my offerings. And then it just raised my collections automatically. And then that aligned me more with the couples that I wanted to work with.
Yeah, essentially you made that base package not just a highlight film like a lot of people do. It was more of like a mid package that they started with. They just don't have a smaller option.
Yes. And still, like, if we got like a really awesome, like, full transparency, like if we got a really awesome planner that's like, hey, they want to add on video, but it's super last minute and like maybe their budget is only 8, then I'll just go ahead and remove those documentary edits from that. And then I can meet those clients' needs and then I can always upsell them later.
Yeah, and I think that upselling is like a whole other episode that we should absolutely like discuss because I think it's like fascinating. But I think in the consumer's mind, they don't lump that into their wedding budget. Like it's a whole other like thing that they spent money on and they don't see it as being a part of the wedding or the video budget. So that's kind of a little hack that we will tease for a later episode.
Yes, that's a great one. I've had such success with upselling and yeah, we could talk all about it, but I use it as like my own Christmas bonus, all the things. So, yeah. So Taylor, you used to do a la carte. Now do you kind of do more of an all-inclusive type of package that includes all the things?
Yeah, so as it stands currently today on January 25th, 2023, again, I change things all the time. So right now I have essentially 2 collections with the ability to like add lots of fluff. So my base collection that I literally just changed 2 days ago has 8 hours, 2 shooters, highlight film, ceremony toasts. And then the next step up after that is 10 hours, all of those deliverables, 4 hours of rehearsal dinner or welcome party coverage, and an Instagram teaser. And I found that that's like pretty much all my clients ask for. It's not often to me that they like want anything additional. I used to like do a full doc edit where they'll get extended getting ready footage and the first look and all the dances. But like I haven't found anybody ask for that the same way people ask me for ceremony and toasts. So I kind of felt like I was just like doing extra work when somebody else didn't want it. So I could be wrong, but like that was what I found for my own like specific clients. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, so you said you have 2 or do you have 3 collections?
Right, I literally just changed it to
cool.
having 2. So I removed that bottom one basically because I used to have just 8 hours, 2 shooters highlight film and I took that one away and then yeah.
Cool. I love that. I think honestly I need to simplify mine a little bit more. I have 4 collections, which is like I feel like we don't really like book anything in the middle very often. So mine's the same as yours. So it starts off 8 hours, 8 hours, like a 5-minute highlight, and then full toast, full ceremony. And then it goes up to 9 hours, a short film, which is around like 8 minutes, and then full ceremony, full toast. And then the next one's 10 hours, and we'll do like a 15-minute film. So that would be like a full length, and then ceremony and toast. And then the final one is more for like weekend coverage. So that would be like 2 to 3 hours of rehearsal dinner or welcome party coverage, 12 hours of wedding day footage. And then it comes with a little bit longer of a film. So it's like 15 to 18-minute film with ceremony toasts. And then we include a teaser in all of those. So like a 1-minute Instagram teaser is included in there too. And then it's always Paul and I, so 2 shooters.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I did forget to mention my higher package is 10 hours too. So they get that and then an extra like minute or 2 minutes for the highlight film. I think I start at a 6 to 7 minute and then it goes to like an 8 to 9. Those are like my ranges. I love how like you do like a lot of like incremental steps. That's really interesting. And I could see why people may not like book the middle ones, is because like they don't see like a lot of difference maybe. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we feel the difference and we know the flow and we know the value, but like for someone who's never booked it, like I could see how they would be like, well, why? So that makes sense.
Yeah.
One thing I like to note is not putting anything in your collections that like you don't want to do. Like you're like, as filmmakers, as like entrepreneurs, like we're essentially not really obligated to do anything that we don't want to do. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm like listening to your collections. So I'm like, a 15-minute film? Like that's so long. Like I feel like I would be so sad editing that. Like,
Yeah.
I just couldn't handle it. So I've never offered it.
No, I think that's fine. And I think that when I restructure mine, this was like a planner kind of told me, like, she was like, I don't think anything should be longer than 12 minutes. And I kind of agree with her now. Just like, I think it's because like 13 years ago when we first started, we had every package included like a 15 to 20 minute film and then like a 4 to 5 minute highlight, because like Instagram didn't exist back then. So their highlight was like a 4-minute video, and then their full length was 15 to 20. And no joke, we got so much pushback on the 15 to 20 minutes from people. They thought that was too short. So they were like, well, my parents' wedding video is 40 minutes. And so it's just like, it just goes to show like how much like our society has changed, and then just like kind of changing our packages accordingly. So I think that maybe we need to like shorten ours down a little bit more, just because of our attention spans and like, you know, what we can handle. So 15 to 20 minutes 13 years ago was like, oh no, I need at least 30 minutes. And now we very rarely have couples that book that one because they're like, hey, 5 minutes, I'm good. That's fine.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And I think that is a big like reason why some businesses last and they like withstand the test of time, essentially, because they grow with society and like how we prefer to consume things. And businesses that like fail, it's like because they got left behind. So I think like being innovative, like how you just said, like, and giving the people what they want and these as times change is like super important. I have actually seen people offer things like TikTok filming, where the client will tell them, I want to do these 5 trends, and then like the videographer's in charge of like the TikTok on the phone, and like so there's like all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do, and I think it's really cool.
Taylor, I loved this topic about pricing. I feel like it's something that's just not discussed enough, and like I said, like keeping the transparency open in the industry is only going to help us all find ourselves in better positions. And so I'm so glad we talked about it.
Me too. And Kelley and I are both completely open books. So if you're listening to this and want to ask a few questions or start a conversation on the side, please feel free to send us a DM at the Level Up Co. We are both going to be managing that account, so you can reach us there. But Kelley, this was amazing, and I can't wait to record more episodes with you.
Thanks, me too. And we can't wait for the next one with you guys.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more filmmakers just like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media. Don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.